What's up, guys? Welcome back to Libertalia Game Supply once again. We've got a Gren Maju Golden Castle deck profile for you here to take a look at. We'll run through this deck list pretty quick. Not a whole lot of explanation that goes into it. It's pretty straightforward. So the deck is built around using Golden Castle to fill up your banish zone as well as your other banish outlets in order to make your Gren Maju as strong as possible. So we play 3 Gren Maju. When it's on the field, its attack and defense are equal to the number of banish cards times 400. So if you can get that banish zone to 20 or more, this thing can one-shot your opponent as long as you can get an attack through, and then it's pretty easy to push above that and then attack over something for game even still. Then we got 3 copies of Gizmek Orochi, so this thing is a level 8 and it's dark, so it facilitates that trade-in and that Allure of Darkness. It can banish 8 cards from the top of your deck face down in order to summon itself from your hand or graveyard. So it's a nice little bit of recursion, and it's also removal, so you can banish 3 cards from your extra deck face down, and then target a face-up monster on the field to destroy it. But you can only use one of those effects each turn, so if you summoned it that turn with its effect, you would have to wait one, but still fills up that banish zone really quickly. It's got a decent body at 2450 attack and defense, and it's a little bit of removal. Pretty awesome card in this deck. Then we've got our Danger Engine, or our Danger Package here, triple Bigfoot and double Thunderbird. Thunderbird could go to 2. I just wanted to play the second Hextrude, which we'll talk about in a little bit. The only other Danger level 8 Dark Monster is Ogopogo. The reason we're not playing any of that one is because the effect of Ogopogo, if it gets selected and discarded by its own effect, or I guess by any effect, but by its own effect most likely, it just Foolish Burials a danger from your deck to the graveyard, which doesn't really do anything for you. Bigfoot in that instance would pop a face-up card, and Thunderbird in that instance would pop a face-down card on your opponent's side of the field. So much better secondary effects if you don't get the draw and the special summon off of them. We got the 2 Eater of Millions, just it's removal, and it's also a little bit of a banish outlet, so you can banish 5 or more cards from your hand, field, and or extra deck face down. It gains 100 attack and defense for each face down banished card, and that includes all of them. So like Desires, Gizmek, all of them, it will boost, but not all of your banished cards, just the face down ones. The reason we play it is it puts bodies in the banish zone for Gren Maju, and once per turn at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can banish that opponent's monster face down. So it is non-targeting removal that doesn't destroy. So pretty good to just clear the way for your Gren Maju, and it special summons itself. So if you have both of these and a fat banish pile, you can special the one, normal the other, clear the way, and attack for game. So it's a nice little combo there, but 2 is plenty. 3 would probably be too many. We got 2 copies of Glyph the Phantom Bird. This thing is essentially like a terraforming for Golden Castle. You can discard it to add a Golden Castle from your deck to your hand. Also, if you end up normal or special summoning this card, you can target a card in your opponent's spell and trap zone and destroy it. So it also has a decent secondary effect if you ended up wanting to use that, or if you ended up special summoning it off of Golden Castle's effect. It can pop some back row. It might come up, but for the most part, this is going to be hopefully getting discarded to the banish zone in order to search your Golden Castle. Then we got 2 copies of Hextrude, so this is also a dark level 8 monster, so good for trade-in and good for Allure of Darkness. If Golden Castle is in the field zone, you can normal summon it without tributing, and it keeps all its stats, which is normally not how something like that would work. I think that the Golden Castle cards end up being so overpowered because having Golden Castle on the field ends up being like almost impossible to run functionally in any other deck that doesn't benefit off the banish zone because of its heavy cost. But if you have that Golden Castle on the field with Hextrude, Hextrude can target a card on the field and then destroy it. And then if you do that, Hextrude can make up to 2 attacks during each battle phase that turn. Also, when it destroys a monster by battle, it can target one of your monsters and boost it by 400 attack. So you could use it to pop one, then attack over another, boost it to 3k, attack over another. So you've now cleared out essentially 3 monsters or 3 cards if the one you pop was something else. So pretty solid removal, and it can also be special summoned off of Golden Castle's effect if you needed to like get to it and clear that board right away for Gren Maju. And then to finish up our monsters, we got 3 copies of Dimension Shifter. Shifter is just a really good option for banishing. Better than Macrocosmos because you don't have to have it set on the field for a turn. Better than Dimensional Fissure because you don't have to like wait for your turn to activate it. So if your opponent goes first, you can Dimensional Shifter on that first turn and hopefully slow them down so it works as a hand trap also, which is what it's usually used for. But if you get the turn past you and don't have your Dimensional Fissure, you can just discard this and then start banishing stuff on your turn also to start powering up that Gren Maju, so still good on either scenario. And then after that, it's a Dark, so you can use it for a lure. It's also a nothing card after turn 1, so you can use it as discard fodder for like Super Poly. You can banish it off of Eater of Millions to add another body to the banish zone, so it's not ever like totally dead. And then the next 10 cards are all draw power, so Desires, banish 10 face down, draw 2. Prosperity, banish 3 or 6 from your extra deck. Dig that deep, pick 1 card, add it to your hand, really good for finding that Gren Maju. Trade in, discard an 8 and draw 2. And a lure, draw 2 cards, then banish a Dark. Pretty much all of these are always live. The only one that doesn't really fit in super well, which I wish I could think of a better replacement for, is Prosperity, because after you've activated it, or on the turn that you want to activate it, you can't use a card effect to draw anything else, so that means the whole rest of this lineup is no good. The only reason that trade-off is worth your while is because digging for that Gren Maju for game, hopefully, plus if you put 6 in the banish zone, boost it up another 1600 attack, you're hopefully digging for that Gren Maju, summoning it, and then going for the game right there. Then we got our triple Super Poly. This is such a good card. I'm sure you all know that. It gets played in a lot of decks already. And as you can see, a good portion of our extra deck is dedicated to being Super Poly targets. It's just removal, kind of like some of this other stuff, like the Eater, the Hextrude, the Gizmek. It's just to try to clear the way a little bit so that you can attack through with that Gren Maju. So the monster you summon isn't necessarily what you're looking for. You're looking for being able to clear that board up a little bit. And really, the Xyz monsters they're good, but they're not as appealing as these, so I could even see myself cutting more of these to make room for additional instant fusion target or Super Poly targets down the road, just because I like the way it interacts with this deck in particular. It's very simple. We got the 1 terraforming just to search the Golden Castle, and we'll come back to the Golden Castle. And then we got the triple Dimensional Fissure. It's pretty straightforward in this deck. We're just banishing as much as we can. So the Golden Castle is a wild card. So once per turn during standby phase, you have to mill 10 cards face down from your deck, the top of your deck. If you cannot, the card destroys itself. So if you only have 9 cards and the turn comes to you and you hit your standby phase, card just dies because you can't mill 10, so it won't deck you out, but it'll get you pretty close. Also, during your main phase, you can special summon a monster from your deck that specifically lists the Golden Castle in its text, so that's Glyph and Hextrude. So both of those have pretty good effects that can be relevant, especially if you can just search them out of your deck and don't just draw them. Especially Glyph, you don't really want to draw it because it doesn't work with your draw power. It's just good for getting your Golden Castle. But if you want that back row removal, you can just special summon it off of your Golden Castle. All of a sudden, Golden Castle is an MST or a little spot removal. The only drawback is you can't normal summon or set the turn you activate that effect. So you would not be able to use it to like summon your Hextrude, clear 3, and normal summon your Gren Maju and attack. You would have to kind of plan that out in advance, or you're just kind of scrambling to keep yourself in the game long enough to get that Gren Maju out. And I think the most interesting effect on this card is the one that seems to get the most overlooked, or at least I don't really see people talking too much about it. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, destroy the attacking monster, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the attack of the monster when it was on the field. So it can act as an MST if you search Glyph. It can act as monster removal or any type of removal if you search the Hextrude, and it acts as a mirror force when it's on the field that does like a half magic cylinder effect too if it destroys the monster when it uses that effect. So it just does so much, which is what I was talking about earlier. That mill 10 is nasty. Like after, especially in this deck where you're already trying to mill a bunch, you're going to get 2 turns, maybe 3 tops before you're sitting on your last couple of cards. Hopefully you didn't get any bad mills and that Gren Maju is still available. Because if you mill that Maju at that point, you've pretty much lost. You're not going to be able to come back with a 6-card deck and no win condition. But hey, I'm a gambling man. I want to take the chance, and it's a really fun card. And then for the extra deck, as I mentioned, it's mostly instant fusion targets. We'll hover over them each pretty quickly here. They're pretty standard, so I'm not going to explain it to you guys. I think you understand kind of how that whole thing works. It's pretty much the same package of cards in every deck that uses instant fusion. This one has a couple of extra ones. Usually a deck will use 2 or 3. This one, I don't really use the rest of the extra deck anyway, so I just packed as many in there as I could. The one dark that you can summon, I guess it can come up, especially with If there are particular meta decks in wherever you're playing that use a lot of dark monsters, this deck also uses a lot of dark, so you get its effect when it dies also. And then for the XZs, they're pretty much all rank 8s or things that can be summoned off of rank 8s. So we've got Dingirsu, we've got number 97 and number 100. 38, this one I do like a lot. I will go out of my way to summon this, the rest of them not as much. 92, Pain Gainer, Seven Sins, and Zeus as like your rank up cards that come off of these. This thing is getting summoned off of your Draglubion if you so wished. The reason I like this a lot is because you can usually normal summon your Gren Maju, and then there are plenty of ways to get 2 level 8s on board. And then you can overlay for this guy, and then it can protect you from spells. So like Feather Duster sucks because Golden Castle and the Fissure are both spells, obviously. Something like a Lightning Storm or a Raigeki or a Dark Hole or something that would remove your Gren Maju sucks because there's not really any built-in protection for it. So that's kind of like, if you have the play to make the additional monsters to overlay for this, I like this as an option to kind of back up your Gren Maju a little bit. But that'll do it for this deck profile. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully you're going to give this deck a try. I know that currently the deck seems to be in a different spot with making use of the buy steals, but I still think Golden Castle is so much fun, and it was such a unique archetype when it came out in that Battles of Legend, Relentless Revenge, and it's been a while since I've thought about these cards, and so when they came back to mind, I figured we gotta play them. So thanks again for hanging out with me for a few minutes. Make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see more deck profiles in the future. Every single week we'll have a new one. Happy deck building. Have a good one.